We're here today to speak with Valerie Wenzel Carson, and she's come to us today from Georgia, all the way from Georgia, to talk a little bit about her father, Clifford Wenzel, who was a county commissioner during the time of the creation of the time capsule that'll be open tomorrow on July 7th, which is the anniversary of the first county commission meeting in Collier County. So we're working on a lot of history, and she reached out to us about her father's participation in the original time capsule, and I asked her, oh, do you want to attend? She said, well, we live in Georgia, but yet here she is. So we wanted to capture everything she has to tell us about her father, how her family came to Collier County. So thank you. If I can call you Valerie, is that okay?
Sure.
Valerie, just great. We want to get some history, and so that the people in the community will appreciate what's gone on the last 100 years of Collier County. So why don't you tell us a little bit how your family got here?
Well, my family got here when my grandparents retired down here in the early 50s. So we started to visit in the early 50s. And my parents and I would stay at the old Naples Hotel, about 2 blocks from the Gulf there. It was an old large wooden building. And we stayed there several summers. And then my father decided to sell his business and move down to Naples. And that was about 1958, and we had a house in Aquilane Shores, and I went to Lake Park Elementary School, which was fun, except for PE when you're running out in the sand spurs and the sand, but and no air conditioning back in those days. But anyway, I went on to go to Gulfview Middle School and Naples Senior High. I graduated from there in 1968. But I can remember before there was ever Alligator Alley, there was the Tamiami Trail, and that was the main way to even do shopping. There wasn't much in Naples. There was just Fifth Avenue, and that was pretty much it, and a few things on 3rd Avenue. And the movie theater was on 3rd Avenue, and an old metal roofed, kind of like a Quonset hut. And if you went to the movies there in the 50s for 25 cents, if it rained, like it did every afternoon in the summer, you couldn't hear the movie. Now, I imagine that building is gone now. But when we used to drive the Tamiami Trail, if we did want to go to Miami, you would see the Seminole Indian Village and them in their native dress right off the road there. And sometimes you would see alligators crossing Tamiami Trail, too. That was always an experience. And snakes, of course. There was always that. But, and I remember the post office in Ochopee. Now, I don't know if that's Collier County or not.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is Collier.
Remember seeing that. And back in the early 60s, WNOG, the local radio station, used to go off the air at 6 o'clock. So we'd be sitting at dinner, maybe with the radio on, and then they'd be doing their little sign-off tune at 6. Yeah. And then there was nothing after that. No radio. The great place to go out and eat in the late 50s, early 60s would have been the Tropics Drive-In Diner, which was one of those places where you drive up to the place where you place your order. A girl would come out, many times on roller skates, take your order, and then she'd bring your food. And the big thing was hot dogs when I was a kid. Bring your food on a tray and stick it outside the driver's side window. But a big thing back then was you prayed mosquitoes didn't get in your car, because here I'd be in the back seat, just fighting off the mosquitoes. So that was always an issue.
We still have those.
Yeah.
But mosquito control does a much better job these days. So they're pretty good.
I can remember them going around with the truck spraying in our neighborhood, and sometimes they'd even pull into the driveway a little bit. But if my window was open, which usually it was, bedroom window, because I had the front bedroom, I'd have to run over and crank it shut because he was coming through with that spray. And then couple years later, they switched over to airplanes doing the spraying. At Gulfview Middle School, the track there was just all sand. It was you'd come in with your socks covered with a grayish white sand, and sand spurs.
what's your earliest memory? How old were you? You told me, I think you were about 4.5 when you first moved
Yeah.
here, but what's your first memory?
The beach. The white sand beach, and shelling and playing in the sand and going in the Gulf, and that Fifth Avenue was it. And there was Wynn's Supermarket on Fifth Avenue, and that was the main place to get your groceries. Really, there were only 2 stoplights. There was the one at the Tamiami Trail and Fifth, and then there was the one at the end of Fifth where it connected with Third. But then I do very accurately remember when I was 10 years old, Hurricane Donna.
1960.
Oh my
right.
gosh. So we left our home in Aquilane Shores because they were predicting flooding, and we were, I don't know, 5 blocks from the beach, but that house was also on a canal. So Dad sealed up the house. He was always good at stuff like that, having been a builder and construction engineer. So we went up to my aunt's house in North Naples, and the storm raged and did a lot of damage. Took the end of the fishing pier then, I believe, too. But so Dad was dying to get back to check on the house. So after the storm passed, we came down. We got as far as on 3rd Street, maybe as far as the gas station that now is went later became a nice store. Gas station near the movie theater. And he got out and he walked. I remember seeing him walk in that water, and it got deeper and deeper. He was just dying to check on the house, and I was just. But our house survived. Of course, it was surrounded in muck and mud and all that. But I do remember that trauma. And then after Hurricane Donna, we had to boil our water for at least a month. We had to get typhoid shots. Public Health Department had us come get those.
Well, that's really interesting too, because tying the history into now, Donna in the 60s was one of the first times ever that Fifth Avenue had totally flooded when it was populated. And every other hurricane, I moved here in '88, most of them have been windstorms.
Okay.
Since Donna in 60, we had not really experienced that flooding and everything until, of course, Ian.
I wondered.
When Ian just came in,
Yeah.
it was the water. Terrible. 19, 20 inches in the houses all along Gulf Shore.
Yeah.
The large condos, underground parking destroyed, much about that. But that was the first time the water had really been recorded as such an event. Boating down Fifth Avenue, back in Donna at 60, they have pictures of rowboats, and we had more than that even in Ian.
Okay, I
here in
wondered if
Collier.
there had been other flooding since. I mean, I knew about Ian, but I wondered if between Donna and Ian.
No, they cannot. The documentation didn't show that significant of a flooding, and that's why I think like Fifth Avenue was somewhat unprepared because it had never come up that far, but it came in very far on Gulf Shore and down Fifth Avenue. So.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
But we recovered very well from
Yeah.
that, so it's good.
That's
and you'll
great.
get a chance, hopefully, over the weekend to see a little bit of Naples has changed considerably since the 60s because it's changed incredibly since I moved here in '88. So I would be great. Maybe we could even follow up before you leave. What do you think now? You know,
Yeah.
after you get to see some of the
Airport Road used to be nothing. And the airport used to be a little concrete. My father flew too. He had his pilot's license, and I used to go up with him. But I mean, it was just a little one-strip airport with a little concrete building. I couldn't get over how big and nice it looks now. And there was nothing on Airport Road really, except for the Humane Society and the airport.
Maybe
And then-
Swamp Buggy. Wasn't Swamp Buggy off of Radio Road,
It
right
might have
across
been,
from
yes,
it?
because I do remember Radio Road too. Yes. but
And now
changed.
Swamp Buggy's clear out at 951.
Oh.
But if you travel 951, it's now Collier Boulevard, and you would not recognize it.
No.
Housing that stopped at 951, no stop. Now it's all the way out the East Trail. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, everything looks lovely coming in, well maintained and looks nice. So I guess there has been control and oversight.
The
on
commissioners.
growth. Yeah.
We have a countywide MSTU to help beautification. So a lot of those things came about through the Board of County Commissioners. How about when your dad started 66, then you were high school age?
Yes.
Yes, high school.
Yes, when he started, I was in high school. And that went fine. You know, some of the teachers would make comments once in a while about my father being county commissioner. Back in 1962, the Cold War was going on.
Oh, right.
And I remember, because being down here in Collier County, not far from Cuba, and with the Cuban missiles over there, or the Russian missiles in Cuba, I can remember distinctly being always a little nervous, and we would practice getting under our desk in case of a nuclear or other bomb coming to South Florida. I know that sounds weird, but I can...
It wasn't. We were in Ohio and we had to practice going under our desks, so it was nationwide.
Yeah, it was kind of nerve-wracking being so close to Cuba back then. But I can remember in '68, the year I graduated, Dad was at the dedication of Alligator Alley, and that was a big deal to have that road opened up because, like I said, Tamiami Trail was, it was kind of sketchy at times and very narrow and a long way to Miami. So we were
And that was only one lane each way.
Yes.
And that remained, even when I moved here in '88, it was still one lane each way.
Oh.
It did not develop or grow till after that. Pieces of it had been widened, but it was still one lane for the primary part until more recently than '88.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's how long it took to get the traffic.
Yeah. Oh no, Alligator Alley was great. And I can remember Governor Claude Kirk came to that. You might not remember him, but he even came to that opening in 1968. And then in 1973, my father was big on pushing for the start of the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council.
Great.
I don't know if that's still around.
That is still there.
So he was the first chairman, since he was one of the, people that were really pushing it. And they used to meet and discuss the issues between Charlotte, Collier, Glades, Henry, Lee, and Sarasota counties. And Dad loved doing stuff. He loved being a county commissioner. He loved Collier County. He wanted to see controlled growth, for it to just not, have 20-story buildings along the beach and stuff like that. But he would be tickled to see the government center now. It's changed quite a bit. So.
Yes, this entire building is fairly new,
Yeah.
not brand new. No, we've been here about 10 years.
Okay.
But yeah, even the old courthouse is still the part that you came in to the older courthouse. That was the original courthouse that was here. Well, I shouldn't even say that, really, because there was an old Building A when they first moved the community center from Everglades up to Collier. Mm-hmm. It actually was a flatter, smaller building where the judges were there with the dispatch, with the jail cells, and that was still in existence when I came to work in '88 for the sheriff's office. Wow. But it was torn down to build this one.
Oh, okay.
So so it doesn't exist anymore. But
and then Dad was promoting building a better bridge to Marco Island, because when we first came here, the bridge to Marco Island was just an old wooden rickety thing. So Dad was instrumental in getting a decent bridge. Probably has been replaced since, but a decent bridge going to Marco Island. And then Marco Island started taking off too in the '60s.
You won't believe the view on Marco, though, if you drive over the bridge now.
Yeah.
So I recommend it. Go over, but the panoramic is full. Yes, wow. Marco, and they're their own city now. Still only have 3 cities, Everglades, Naples, and Marco Island. The county takes care of all of the unincorporated area and also responsible for the cities to a degree. Yeah. When your father would bring home, complaints or issues, or what were some of the things? I told you I saw an article about David Lawrence, so mental health was an issue then, and it is still today, unfortunately, but he was instrumental in putting together some assistance. And
like I said, his big thing was controlled growth. Right. He didn't want, because it was lovely. When I was a kid, I could ride my bike all over the place. There wasn't this traffic that it is now, unfortunately. But anyway, he was into controlled growth, keeping it beautiful, keeping everything, not going crazy with ugly buildings. Having been a builder, he was into the buildings looking nice that were built. Same with the subdivisions. And he was a very fair person, looking out for everyone, so it doesn't surprise me at all about the mental health issues that he knew they had to be addressed. He was very patriotic too. Oh my gosh,
good?
yes.
What year did your dad pass away?
1996.
96.
And they were living in Naples in
Pelican Bay?
Pelican Bay, maybe, yeah. He had 2 whole notebooks of when he was, that he put pictures and newspaper clippings and all that, from when he was county commissioner. So when I was showing that to my grandchildren, 4 grandchildren, so they could learn more about their great-grandfather, and we came across the time capsule stuff, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. And I wrote myself a little note, so I would remember to follow up with y'all when the time came.